You are now listening to The Doc Hardy Show on WPKN. Right, it's Brendan Rothwell. The song is called Tell Me off of Destiny, available on all outlets. Please get it. But next up is Kirstey Jane. Kirstey, can you hear me and can I hear you? That's going to be the key. How are you today?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Wow, the miracle of modern technology. Kirstey's an educator and writer and photographer and hairstylist and just a super person all around. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Kirstey, before we get into this conversation.
Oh, man. In relation to what? Like 5 days, you know that.
Now, you're British. You're British, too, right? You're British.
I am,
by way of Canada as well, same as Brendan and his wife.
Absolutely, yeah. We were actually friends for many, many years in the UK.
Okay.
And then I emigrated here about 22 years ago with my then husband. And as I said, we were all friends. So they came out to visit and they literally stayed with us for about a week. And they were like, okay, we're going to do this too. Wow. And so a couple of years later, they started the process. And yeah, so now I have my closest friends here too. So it's amazing.
That's awesome. Now, we were supposed to do this about 2 years ago. We were going to have this big, our relationships thing. And I was really gung-ho. And then things kind of fell apart for me on my radio station, so I had to move stations. And since that time, I've evolved. I've gone through this personal evolution, and I was mentioning to you a few weeks ago. One of the things I noticed is, and one of the reasons I want to talk to you specifically is a lot of people talk about relationships, but most of it seems to be problem amplification. It's very rare to see a TikTok or a Facebook or Instagram video where someone's actually identifying problems and helping you come up with solutions. We're good at amplifying problems, not so good at solving them. And then I saw your little program here. What's it called? It's called Bubbles, Boxes, and Breakthroughs. I said, you know what? That's what we need to talk about. I want to be inspirational to the people and give them hope. So can we do that, Kirstey? Can we give them hope?
We can certainly try, yeah.
So what is that? What is that process? Bubbles, breakthroughs? What is that? What is that all about?
Yeah, it's a weird name, and it's funny because people have said to me, like, why are you calling it that? It doesn't explain what it is. And it's like, well, that's the whole point. I mean, see, I think we overcomplicate for sure. If you think of, I'm an overthinker. So one of the things that I tend to, if you're ever bored and you never know like what to do with yourself, this is like something I've done my whole life, and it probably makes me look a bit crazy. But when you think about the complication of life, all you have to do is wherever you are right now, just look around and set your eyes on one thing. It could be anything. So I'm going to pick up a lip balm because it's like right here. And it's like, what do I know about this lip balm? I take it for granted. It's there on my desk. I've got one in my pocket, one in my car. I just use it whenever I need it, but it's like, oh my gosh, like, look, there's a label on it. Who makes that label? How do they get it all like typeset like that? And how does that, is the same people that make the label, the same people that actually make the lip balm that's inside the plastic casing? And then you look at that and you could sit there for an hour and think, what do I know about this? There is so much to know. And if I hyper-focused, I could probably do about 2 hours of research and find out the company that made it, that came up with the idea, that painted it, that sells it, that markets it. This is a lip balm. And then you look at all the other things around you, and every single thing there's so much I don't know about all of these things until I really hyper-focus on it. And relationships, I think, are one of the most complicated things on earth. There's, I don't know how many people, 8 billion people, 7 billion people in the world right now. And, we all have like a unique, and I mean unique, like there's even identical twins are not the same. Like everybody has their own set of feelings, of emotions, of trauma, of things that happened in their background, decisions they made, decisions they didn't make. And then somehow we're miraculously expected to find someone who aligns with us perfectly, who we want to spend the rest of our life with, right? I mean, it's just, when you think about how many different aspects of everything it's so frigging complex. It's insane. And I think when we get emotional about things, which obviously that's what relationships are, we get so lost in that noise and the feelings and things that we would never normally do. We respond in ways and react in ways that aren't, we could be perfect at work, but the minute that we see someone that we have an emotional feeling about, then everything just goes out the window. And we were never taught when we were born how to operate this system. I mean, the human body is miraculous. It can do miraculous things. The mind is insane. Nobody can build a brain. We can build computers, but still not a brain. We just can't recreate it. And when we do, as women, and we give birth, we have no idea how we did that. So again, that's completely miraculous. And so in all of this, if you're an overthinker, like you probably realize I am.
No, I didn't notice.
When you look at all of that, it's no surprise that relationships are hard. And so in my mind, I've been a lifetime student of this and figuring out why and questioning everything. And I just brought all of it down to two simple things. It's a bubble and a box, which is basically a circle or a square. And so when people take my training and they start to understand what it is really, it's just a map that helps you of life. So if you're going on a journey and you don't know where you're going, maps are confusing. Okay. So if you know where you are and you know where you want to get to, then you either look at a map if you're old school, or you plug in your GPS and it tells you exactly where to go. And if you find you've taken a wrong turn or there's a diversion you weren't aware of, again, you go back to the map and go, well, this is where I was, this is where I'm going. And you kind of adjust it and you still get there. We don't have a system for that being a human. Like, we come into life, we get so lost with everything that's happening. We're responding, emoting to everything, and things become really confusing. And if you talk to someone who is struggling in any kind of relationship because they're upset, it's simply, what I try and do is make things really simple. So as humans, we have two modalities. We're either in alignment, which means that we're at peace, we're happy, we're in the moment, enjoying what's going on. We're not thinking about anything else. And we do that when we do things we love. We could be at work, we could be with a loved one, with a partner or something, or we're out of alignment. And the way we know we're out of alignment is because we feel uncomfortable. Because all these other things start to come in. We feel stress, or we feel anger, or we start responding and we can't always pinpoint it. We're not aware of it. We just feel it. And then we're getting agitated and moody. So we switch between these two modes, I don't know, hundreds of times a day, in alignment, out of alignment, in alignment, out of alignment. And for the most part, a lot of it's just superficial. We're just, sort of navigating life, feeling the energy and walking around, and, this is agreeable, this isn't. But when we have a problem with someone or a situation, that's when we really kind of need to focus and start shutting everything out and going, okay, it's funny how whenever I have a problem with something, I'm always there. And that's the really first place. Yeah. And you'd be amazed how many people don't even think like that, So if you were saying to me like, oh my God, this person or this situation is driving me crazy, I can sit there and listen to you vent, and you might feel better because you got it off your chest. That's all great. I mean, that's what therapy's for. But how do you fix that? Are you just going to go around and tell another 10 people like your day and vent about that? Or are you going to look at it and go, hang on a minute, I'm always there. So I'm in the equation somewhere. Right. I have to look at what my part is in this. I have to be accountable for that. And so the program that I run is Bubbles, is all about, and it's visual. I'm a visual learner. And I think a lot of people are. I think that really, you're a trainer yourself, right?
Yes, yes.
I used to do a very similar thing to you many years ago. Yeah. And so, you sort of think to yourself, well, how can I make this really simple? How can I let people get it? So I go in and do all the hard work, and then I make it simple concepts for people to get. So circles is all about you're in a bubble. That's your life. And it's about acknowledging, what's your part and what isn't. So every time you come to a difficulty in anything, it's always being able to separate yourself. Like, I'm here, there's a problem, I'm part of that problem. So what is the stuff that's mine that I can control and I can change? And what is the stuff that I can just let go of because it doesn't concern me? Because a lot of the time we get mad or we get frustrated with people, it's because we're in their business.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need
Yes.
to be. We take it for granted. It's like, but I got feelings. Great, they're your feelings. Keep them to yourself. Like, what do you know?
Yeah.
So that's the bubbles part. Is you're in a bubble. This is your life. What's inside it? What's outside of it? And if everybody is in a bubble floating around, and it's very visual. I mean, you'll see it in the program. But when you meet somebody else, what happens is if this is a bubble. I can't do this. It is a bubble. Here's a bubble. When you connect with someone else, you connect your bubbles.
Okay.
And so, right, what's happening now is that the relationship you have is actually this stuff in the middle.
Right.
So if this person's got a ton of stuff in there and this person hasn't, and then you get together, what's this person experiencing?
The other person's stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you think, am I going crazy? And you look and you think, before this person came into my life, I was really, at peace and aligned. And now they've come in. I just got nothing but drama. But we don't see that. All we see is, well, I love this person. They're so great. They make me feel so good. Yeah, for 5% of the time, maybe. But the rest of the time, it's just all this drama that I never had before I got there. And so that's where it starts to get complicated. And this is what I mean about it being a map. You just anchor back to the simplest things and go, oh my, I've just done this again. And it becomes easier to make decisions. So this whole process takes the emotion out of everything. It allows you to become objective with yourself. Because, when you're hurting and you're telling me all your stuff, why is it I'm not hurting too? Because I don't have your feelings.
Right.
I'm not attached to it. I'm not attached to your outcomes or your emotions. I can see it. And that's why we talk to friends. It's why we talk to therapists, because they can see it in a way that we can't. What this does is it allows you to see it for yourself. You keep going back. You're like, I've tripped up again. You're like, oh my goodness. And you look at it, I've done it again. Like, it's helping you self-correct. And once you become aware of that, then you start building resilience. You start to become aware. You start to notice your energy. You start to notice your part in everything. And when you take accountability and you become responsible for things, then your life becomes much simpler. People don't take advantage of you. You can set boundaries. You can create your own life, your own happiness. And because you are then ruminating in all the things that you love and you're happy, guess what happens? You attract that same energy, and all people that are like you will start coming. You'll completely change your world. So that's bubbles. And then boxes, really, it's a square. So again, I call it, we call it box one. There's a bigger explanation to it, but I probably might not have time here, but this is how we communicate. So bubbles is all about, who am I? How do I relate to the world, and how do I relate in relationships with anybody, whether it's my kids, family, partner, work. It's all relationships are the same. Business and personal are exactly the same.
Right.
Always. So if you can do one and you're really good at one, people are like, oh, I can make millions at work, but I'm not happy. I suck at relationships. It's like, actually, it's the same principles. You're just not making the connection here. If you actually looked at how you were performing at work, you could do the same in your personal life and vice versa. Right. And then boxes is all about, how do I have conversations with people? How do I communicate? How do I listen so that I can actually absorb what people are saying without me reacting? Because I think if we could do anything on earth, I think if we were just taught to be better listeners, the world would be a much better place, because it's not what you say, it's how you are received. And we don't know how to set up a situation to be received. One of the most damaging things I think that you learn as a child is that not being heard and not being understood are lifelong damaging things that you'll carry with you. But those are two that I had anyway, because I never felt understood. I never felt heard. And so that created in my personality the need to over-explain, to overthink, to want to, it was so painful for me that I never wanted anyone else to experience that pain. So I felt that everybody I met had to make it so easy for them so that they could be, because I never wanted them to feel misunderstood. So I was always super careful about what I said, to my own detriment, because I didn't, things don't need to be long.
Right.
You can make your point, you can leave, you can be assertive, you can have boundaries. You don't need to explain yourself to everybody. Like, you can pick and choose that. But we fall into that trap. And so, understanding how to be heard, how to set up an environment where somebody will hear you, which allows you to be vulnerable. And also recognizing that if someone's not willing to hear you, is noticing that and going, hang on, I'm recognizing here that this person isn't even listening and they're not even taking the time to hear me. So you know what? I'm not going to be vulnerable here. Why would I do that? That's just going to make me feel even worse. So it actually creates a boundary and knowing when to walk away, which I think is another thing where people get stuck. They're in something that makes them really miserable. It's like they keep, trying to talk, having conversations, trying to sort things out, and they just keep hitting a brick wall. And they love this person or care about this job or whatever it is so much, but they just keep going at it and going at it. And it's like, you're not being heard. So the boxes is all about how do I set it up so I can get heard. And when I realize that this person is just not interested in hearing me, or they don't have the capacity to hear me, it's actually time for me to walk away from this conversation, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently. Because the worst thing to do is to unload and have the person in front of you totally react to what you're saying, because now you're dealing with their reaction. You're not only dealing with your own issue, your own ability, now you're dealing with their reaction. And this is one of the number one things why kids shut down on their parents. Because kids will tell their parents things. The parents are like, like shocked or angry or freaking out, or that you shouldn't be saying things like that, which shuts the kid down. So they're never going to share anything with them again. So, one of the things I learned to do very early on when I had my kids was just to, no matter what they said, I would just be like deadpan. It was just like, how does that make, instead of telling them how I feel and showing them how I feel, I'd ask them like, okay, so how'd you feel about that? And what do you think you're going to do next? And as I've done that, my kids are in their late teens now. And so I hear probably way too much things I don't want to know. I'm thankful for that, because at least I know what's going on in their life. And it's like, okay, that's all I care about. It's this lifeline that no matter what, if they feel they can come to me and share something, then I feel that I can give them the freedom that they actually crave, because I trust that they know what they're doing, and I trust they'll tell me if they get into trouble. So awesome. I think you probably share that. I know you talk a lot about your...
Yes. So the thing I really appreciate about what you're saying is understanding, if you're having problems everywhere you go, well, you're everywhere you go, right? So that I know I had to learn that you want to blame other people, but you were there. So what was your role? What can you do to avoid that? Excellent stuff. So we talked about bubbles and boxes. Let's come back and talk about breakthroughs. We'll take a brief musical break, talk about breakthroughs, and then we're going to talk about phrases, these toxics and all these other words, and kind of get your impression about these. I think they're overused terms that are really not very helpful, and see what you think about those things. I'm Doc Hardy. She's Kirstey Jane. This is the Doc Hardy Show on WPKN 89.5. We're going to play another song from Brendan Rothwell's CD. It's called Destiny. This particular track is called Foundation. We'll be back in a moment. And I have Kirstey Jane on the back with us. Kirstey, so we're talking about relationships, your program, bubbles, boxes, and breakthroughs. You've explained what the bubbles were and the boxes. Any more on boxes? And then talk about breakthroughs, what that's about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, breakthroughs is the final part of it. And again, when you're learning a new skill, learning is one thing, putting it into practice is another. And especially when you have this... just understanding that you are the cause of and the result of everything that happens in your life. If you want to know how someone's doing, just look at their life, walk around their house. Your outer what's the word? Like everything that you see on the outside is a manifestation of what's on the inside. So, that when you're stressed, your house is a mess because that's what your brain's doing. It's scrambled, right? So that's usually what happens. And then people get back into action by tidying up, and then they feel better. And it's like, and so there's a pleasure in that. So breakthroughs is really the practice. It's the practice that comes. So boxes bubbles, you've learned about you and how you fit in and what you're creating. Boxes is about how you have the conversations in order to fix what you've realized and to go in and connect with other people. Breakthroughs is now the practice. So it's part of it where we give you a whole bunch of situations. It could be any situation at all, but to do with relationships. And it's up to you to be able to look at that and within a few minutes be able to pull apart, because you're objective in it, because it's not your problem, but to be able to go, I see what's happening here. This person's doing this person's doing that, and what they need to do is this. And so when you can do that really, really fast, now you can apply that to your own life. So then you're like, okay, I figured that out. So now when I look at myself and I'm getting stuck here, I can instantly go in and pull myself out of it as well. So it's easy to fix everyone else's problems, as we all know.
Yes.
We love to do that.
Yes.
Then how do we do it using that framework and the anchors that we've been given to learn, which are super simple. I mean, what I love about this stuff is you can teach it to kids. And I can teach it in kids in half an hour, whereas it'll take an adult a whole weekend, because as adults, we have to like undo everything that we've been doing our whole lives. You know, the secret to peace is about letting go and undoing all the stuff that we've accumulated. When you talk to kids, they don't have it to start with. They just take it on, get on with it, and it's easy. So it's more of a, top down, bottom up approach where, if you can teach kids when they're young how to navigate their own bodies, how to navigate emotions, and how to recognize themselves in it, and then they're supported by adults around them, it's just a brilliant thing to learn, in schools and teams, teenagers in particular, because that's when they're first probably navigating their most solid friendships and partners and things like that. So that's really what it's all about. Yeah.
So you teach this program, I guess, 1-to-1. You also run workshops with teams, couples, families. You speak at events. Sounds exciting. Where can people, or how can people contact you if they want more information about the program?
They can go straight to my website, which is kirsteyjane.com. It's Kirsty with an E. People never know. My name is just a permanent nightmare my whole life. So yeah, KIRSTEY and then JANE.com. You can go there. There's a little bit of information on there about roughly what it's about and the results you get. But if you want to know more or want to set up a conversation, then just reach out on the contact us page with your message and I can help you there. And generally I'm on Instagram and Facebook, again, under @Kirstey Jane. And I put out usually daily or, several times a week, I put out little 1-minute videos that are just little things to help you, that'll hit you and make you think. And it's like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. Oh, I'm doing it again. They're tips to kind of like keep you in line. But the program is what teaches you the stuff underneath.
So I just grabbed one of your posts, and after the post there's a bunch of hashtags, and some of my favorite words are in this hashtag list, like triggered and toxic, and what else? Toxic and narcissists. So normalize. Everything is normalized. Pretty soon we'll be normalizing the normalizing of normalizing. I mean, we're using these words. I notice you sometimes do videos on some of these expressions. Can you pick one of those and just talk about that for a minute? One of these overused words and how it really should be viewed or thought about or looked at. I mean, because it's just annoying to me to see some of the conversations that people have about these expressions.
Well, I think the obvious one is narcissist.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, you don't agree with me. Okay, you must be a narcissist then. It's like, whoa. No. I mean, narcissism. Oh, wow. I mean,
now you just did a video on narcissism. I think I saw it the other day, right? Yeah.
I did a live about it as well.
That's what it was. Yes, it was live. Yeah.
Yeah. I did a couple of things because people, like you said, this word is bandied around so loosely all the time. And what's interesting is that when people are online calling out someone as a narcissist, the other person's also calling them a narcissist. So it's like, well, hang on a minute, who's the narcissist? And it's like, wow, and if you ever have actually genuinely had experience with a real narcissist, you'll look at that and kind of laugh. But at the same time, you'll also realize that it can really screw your head up. I mean, when you do deal with a narcissist, you end up questioning everything about yourself. And I think that right in there is the answer. Narcissists don't question themselves. So if you're literally saying to yourself, am I a narcissist? And you're like looking up all the definitions of am I one? Am I one? Well, that would tell me that you're not really high, because it's like a spectrum, right? We all do little things that are a little narcissistic. I mean, I use the analogy of, I don't know, you play a game of Monopoly and maybe you're brilliant at it and you always win. And there's this huge pleasure of like taking all the money off everyone, like, ha ha, you know, like whatever. Everyone's like, I don't want to play with you anymore. You suck. You ruin everything. And it's like, no, I'm the winner. I own the world. You know, I mean, in that moment, playing Monopoly, you can be quite narcissistic, but like you're not doing that in the rest of your life. You're not disowning your kids. You're not, mistreating your partner. You're not, the leader of a team at work and never giving your employees credit. You know, you're humble. So, narcissism is the inability to look at oneself. You have a vision of yourself that is so perfect, is so grandiose. It's like you're always right. And it comes from low self-esteem. So narcissists are often formed from childhood when you're in a situation where your parents are narcissists, or it's the other way around. Like you're either mistreated and neglected, or you're treated like the golden child that you can do no wrong. So when you go into the world, suddenly not everybody is like worshiping you like your parents did. And so you're like, what's going on? And so you start, you're like, well, I like the feeling of this. I got to keep going with it. And so you create scenarios where you create drama. And you always make yourself look the best. And, a lot of these real narcissists will be very charming, very charismatic. Looks matter. It's all about looks, as in how you're perceived, so your labels, your credibility, your position in society, in jobs. You will go and befriend people that you deem to be really amazing in order that by association you are also amazing, and then you'll talk about that a lot. So it's not just about bragging. I think what it really comes down to is, are you so obsessed with how everything makes you look that you would actually negate and put down and put other people into jeopardy?
Right.
That's probably the biggest telltale sign. So if you're literally saying, am I a narcissist? That means that, you can look inside yourself and you're concerned about being one and you're looking to change. Narcissists don't do that. They're completely unaware, and they are so desperate to defend their story that they will be ruthless. They will do anything they can to not have anyone discover the truth. And they don't care if they lose their kids. They don't care if they lose their partner. Like they absolutely they're ruthless with it. It's all about them. And you'll find that they don't have any long-term, I got friends from when I was like 4 years old still, and I'm 51. So, I mean, I've got people that I could just pick up the phone and, if I got stuck and it's 4 a.m, they'd be there for me. Narcissists don't have that. Like they create this community of people that like worship them and think they're amazing. And then as soon as, the walls come down and people start to see things that aren't adding up, they will just drop and move, and they'll get rid of all those friends and they'll create a new group, and they'll just keep doing this. So yeah, I mean, I could talk about this.
I bet you could. I'm Doc Hardy.
Just because someone doesn't agree with you does not make them a narcissist.
And I think that's important, because I think some of these terms, we use them incorrectly out of ignorance, and so I think it's good to have this conversation. I wish we had more time. We have to do this again. So again, one more time, just share with people how they can reach you or follow you to learn more about your program, Bubbles, Boxes, and Breakthroughs. I think that's important.
Yeah. So just go to my website, kirsteyjane.com. You can reach out there and connect with me, and if you have any questions, or you can go to Instagram at Kirstey Jane, or Facebook, which is actually, it's at Kirstey Jane Creative. That's where you'll find me, because I have a personal page too. But yeah, feel free, just reach out. Got any questions? You can follow along. What else can I say, really?
I really appreciate you making time. You're like 3 hours behind us, right? Or 2 hours at least. Or
yeah.
So getting up early on a Sunday morning to be on the program. And I really appreciate you making time for that. And Brendan Rothwell texted me. He's been listening. So hello, Brendan and Lisa. We'll see you next weekend. Kirstey, take care of yourself. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, I'm Doc, and we're going to play one more song from Brendan's album Destiny before we finish up the program. We got about 20 minutes left of airtime. This last track is called Destiny. It's the title track of the album, Destiny. This is Brendan Rothwell. Here we go.